Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Influence Economy podcast. I'm your host, Shayna Davis. I'm so glad you're here, but like always, I have a favor to ask. So, wherever it is that you're listening to this episode, I want you to take a screenshot. And with your screenshot, I want you to post it on LinkedIn and tag me. And I just want to hear your biggest aha moment or your biggest takeaway from this episode. And again, the reason why I do this is not so much that I care about downloads, I honestly don't even check those. But I do know that far too many leaders don't know how to cultivate and build the external influence that the new world demands. And the more times that these episodes are shared, the more people that are going to be exposed to the signals that they need to develop in order to lead better. So I appreciate you in advance for being willing to share. So we are going to get into today's episode right away. It's just me today. It's a solo episode. And you know, something interesting that I've been noticing lately is that the people the market trust inside companies are starting to change. For decades, really for most of modern business, the person carrying the credibility of the company was the CEO. The CEO was the face, the spokesperson, the person that investors looked to, the person the media quoted, the one whose vision and confidence shaped how the outside world felt about the company. But something is shifting. And if you work in technology, innovation, or quite frankly, any industry where the product is deeply technical, you've probably felt it already. Because increasingly, the people audiences trust the most are not the traditional executives. It's the people who actually understand how the systems work, like the engineers, the product architects, the technical founders, the CTOs, the people who can open the hood and explain what's really going on. Technical credibility is quietly becoming what I call leadership currency. And today I want to talk about why that's happening, why companies are underestimating this shift, and what smart organizations are starting to do differently because of it. So let me start with a simple observation. We're living in an economy where almost every company is now a technology company. Media as well, but literally almost every company is now a technology company. Banks are technology companies. Retailers are technology companies. Healthcare is technology. Logistics is technology. Media is technology. Even industries that used to run entirely on relationships and operations are now built on software, platforms, infrastructure, and data. And when technology becomes the foundation of how something works, the people who understand that foundation suddenly matter a lot more. Because when the outside world has questions, and I mean real questions, the answers don't live in the marketing department. The answers don't live in the PR or the comms department, and all three of those are important. The answers live with the people who built the thing. Investors, they want to know if the technology holds up. Customers want to know what is actually behind the product. And talent wants confidence that the company is building something real. And in each of those moments, technical credibility carries enormous weight. And that's why technical leaders are becoming some of the most powerful trust signals a company can have. But here's where things get interesting. Most organizations are still structured for the old world. They treat technical leaders as internal operators, like they always have in the past. And these are the people who run engineering, ship the product, maintain infrastructure, solve problems. They're critical to the company's success, but they're often, most almost often, they are invisible to the outside world. Invisible. Meanwhile, the company's external voice is still dominated by traditional executive messaging, traditional marketing, traditional comms. And again, I'm not saying that those things are not relevant, but that creates a strange gap because the people who carry the most technical credibility are often the least visible, which means the company is leaving credibility and trust on the table. I want you to think about the last time you heard a technical leader explain how something actually works. Maybe it was a founder walking through the architecture of their product, or maybe it was an engineer explaining how an AI model is trained. Maybe it's even a product leader breaking down why a certain feature matters. When those people speak, something interesting happens. The audience leans in. because it feels different, less polished, more grounded, more real. There's a signal embedded in the way technical leaders communicate. And that signal says something very simple. This person actually knows what they're talking about. And that matters more than ever right now because the market is tired of polish. We're living in a moment where audiences are deeply skeptical of corporate messaging. Everyone assumes there's a marketing layer. Everyone assumes there's a spin. Everyone assumes the message has been polished within an inch of its life. So when someone shows up who sounds like they actually built the thing, trust jumps. Not because the person is charismatic, not because they are incredible storytellers, but because their authority comes from expertise. And that distinction is incredibly powerful. Now, here's the challenge. For many technical leaders, influencing externally is not something they're trained to do. There's usually a competency gap and it's outside of their comfort zone because their careers were built around solving complex problems, writing code, designing systems, thinking about architecture and performance and reliability. Communication in the public arena often feels like a completely different job to them. And when organizations realize that they want their technical leaders to be more visible, they often make the same mistake. And I talked about this last week on the podcast. They send them straight to communication training or media training. And there's nothing wrong with those things. I do them. I do communication training. I do media training. That's the table stake, though, but that's not the foundation. When we jump straight there, there's usually we're just solving the wrong problem because the issue isn't that the technical leaders don't know how to speak. The issue is that no one has helped them translate their expertise into leadership signals that the market can understand. Technical leaders do not need to become marketers. They don't need to become polished corporate spokespeople. In fact, if you push them too far in that direction, you actually destroy the signal that makes them credible in the first place. What they need instead is clarity. Clarity about how the expertise connects to the larger conversations happening in their industry. Clarity about what perspective they bring. Clarity about why their voice matters outside the company walls. Let me give you an example. Imagine a CTO who understands the infrastructure of challenges of scaling AI systems. Inside the company, that knowledge helps them make technical decisions. But externally, that same knowledge could shape an entirely different conversation. They could talk about why certain AI architectures fail at scale, what companies misunderstand about AI infrastructure, where the next wave of innovation is likely to happen. And now, suddenly, because they're sharing this perspective, and not just what the company is building, and not just what the comms people told them to memorize, and not what we could find on your website, that technical expertise is now becoming industry insight. And that's where credibility starts turning into influence. When those voices show up consistently in the right conversations, they do more than promote the company, they stabilize trust. And trust right now is one of the most valuable assets a company can have because trust determines three things every organization is fighting for: talent, customers, and capital. If engineers believe your company is building meaningful technology, they want to work there. If customers believe the product is real and reliable, they want to buy it. If investors believe the company's technical foundation is strong, they want to fund it. Technical credibility touches all three of these, which means the leaders who carry the credibility are incredibly valuable signals. But activating that signal, it requires intention. It's not about becoming performative. It's not about becoming fake, charismatic, phony, becoming somebody that you're not, but it is about being intentional. And it doesn't happen automatically. Companies have to start thinking about technical credibility the same way they think about brand or reputation, something that needs to be cultivated and expressed. It's not a personality trait. This level of presence and influence that I'm saying that you need to embody is actually a technical skill. It's not a personality trait is what I'm trying to say. It's a skill that can be built and cultivated with intention. So let me tell you how you get there. The first step is identifying which technical leaders represent the company's future. Not every engineer needs a public platform, right? But some individuals carry knowledge that is deeply aligned with where the company is going. The second step is helping them translate those complex ideas into perspectives the market can understand. Not simplified, not watered down, just made accessible, right? And we have to layer in some seasoning, like your own point of view or perspective, like the examples that I just gave a moment ago, not just regurgitating what we can find in a brochure or on your website. And the third step is giving them access to the right conversations, not just product announcements, but industry conversations, panels, media discussions, places where they can talk about the direction of technology itself, not just the one you're building. And finally, organizations need to recognize that technical credibility is not just an operational asset, it's a reputation asset. It shapes how the market perceives the company substance. Does that make sense? So here's the real takeaway. We're entering a moment where leadership credibility is being refined, not just by visibility, by substance. And for a long time, influence in business was carried by the most visible executive. The person on stage, the person doing the interviews, the person telling the story of the company. But in an economy built on technology, that dynamic is shifting because the people who understand how the systems actually work are becoming some of the most trusted voices in the room. Technical leaders are becoming credibility signals, and that creates a new opportunity for organizations. Because when technical expertise becomes visible in the right way, something powerful happens. The market stops seeing the company as just messaging and they start seeing it as substance. Customers trust what they're buying, talent trusts what they're joining, investors trust what they're funding. That's what technical credibility really does. It stabilizes trust. And in an economy defined by talent wars, trust gaps, and constant technological change, trust might be the most valuable asset a company can build. So here's the question I want to leave you with today. Inside your organization, who are the people who actually understand the future of your product? Not the messaging, the reality. Those individuals may not think of themselves as public voices, but they may be the strongest credibility signal that your company has because technical credibility isn't just operational anymore, it's leadership currency. If this episode got you thinking, I'd love to hear your perspective. I want to know, who are the technical voices in your industry that you trust the most? Send me a message, share the episode, or tag me in the conversation. I would love that. And if you're enjoying the Influence Economy podcast, make sure you follow the show so you don't miss what's coming next. Because each week we're going to continue to unpack how leadership influence is evolving in a world defined by talent, trust, and technology, and how the signals leaders send to the outside world increasingly determines who wins. This is what's going to help you in the next decade. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.